Hello, welcome back to IVFU. Today, I'm very excited for you to meet Melissa, a Black woman working to have a baby by herself and owning it every step of the way. With a rare condition which makes her eggs unviable, Melissa is dealing with big financial and medical obstacles and the fact that there are precious few Black egg and sperm donors out there. And what I love about Melissa is that this has only made her more determined. I think we could all use a little more Melissa in our blood.
I'm in love with you.
The single mom originally wasn't my plan. But once that occurred, it was like, you know what? I'm strong, I'm educated, I'm a professional, and I'm going to do parenting my way without reservations or hesitations about it.
Awesome. Well, this is so exciting to me in so many ways because, for one thing, you reached out to me because you are a listener of the podcast and you wanted to share your story. So I'm very happy that you are here to tell me about your experience.
Thank you.
And because you said to me in your email, doing this as a proud single woman.
Right. Originally, it was like I was seeing someone, and in the midst of me seeing him, I learned that I had premature ovarian failure. And then soon after that, we ended things. He cheated on me. And, so I dealt with that a little bit and came to the conclusion that with me being the age that I am at 36 and my ethnicity
as a Black woman.
Correct. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and make the choice to take the power back and do this journey alone. Of course, I have a large support system.
Yeah. And is the guy that you were dating, was it because of the POF, the premature ovarian failure, that it ended? Or,
I feel like it was unrelated, but it could have had something to do with it. And not just the diagnosis itself. So like he cheated and, went out and did whatever he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it. But if I really am reflective about it, with premature ovarian failure, I've learned, I'm 36, but my doctors told me I have a body of a 51-year-old woman going through menopause.
Oh, wow.
And so with that comes different things that I have to go through. So our sex life definitely slowed down quite a bit. So perhaps he wasn't able to deal with that or knew how to deal with that and ventured out. I never got real answers or real closure. That's just my speculation. But I could see how dealing with the reality of my body going through menopause at such a young age could have played a part in our relationship.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it's coming with all the emotions that come with menopause as well.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
And kids, you always knew you wanted kids?
Well, originally in my young life, I was like, I always wanted to have 7 kids, all 7 boys. And then I started teaching and I was like, okay, let's throw some girls in the mix, not all 7 boys.
But the number was still 7, amazingly.
The number was still 7, yeah. And then it slowly was like, okay, we can, maybe 3, you'll be good. 3 is the magic number. That's what we want. But, now it's just 1. But
right, I'll take 1.
Just at least just give me 1.
Right.
But originally it was like, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have children. My best friend and I are going to raise our kids right next door. We're going to be soccer moms together, all that great stuff. And my best friend she just had her baby New Year's
Oh my
Eve.
gosh. Wow.
She and her husband, and that's going great. She's gorgeous. But I didn't fulfill my end of that story.
Yeah.
Of the bargain,
Right.
My part wasn't fulfilled. Yeah.
How is that for you, kind of seeing her, like you said, like you didn't fulfill your half of the bargain? Do you really, I know you're sort of kidding, but there must be some emotions wrapped up in that.
There is. I love her dearly, but there is. So now she's doing the mom thing, and I'm super excited and happy for her at the same time. One, with COVID, I can't be there.
Oh, that's so true.
It's it's been a little rough because I feel like I'm not on the baby train. I'm not with the mom tribe, and it doesn't feel great. It feels like this was something that we originally had planned to do together. Like this was the plan. That's how I kind of feel. I feel like I'm kind of not a part of that plan anymore.
It's one. I wonder if, you're saying you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, but I also wonder if it were me, the irrational, emotional part of my brain would be kind of angry that she didn't hold up her end of the bargain by sort of waiting. I mean, you never want someone to wait, but I would sort of feel like, well, wait a second, you don't get to do that without me. This was our plan. We were gonna,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it definitely does feel that way. Like why me? Why didn't I get, the happy ever after, so to speak.
The happy ever after. Yeah.
Yeah. And then not even knowing that you have menopause. So
Right. That was a question I had, is how did that get diagnosed?
So, ironically, when she found out she was pregnant, I went to go visit her and she was like, Melissa, let's get you checked. We need to find out what's going on with your body.
Hmm.
Actually, it goes back to like 2015, 2014. I went to different doctors because my cycle wasn't coming. And that was so odd.
Hmm.
But doctors would continue to tell me, I went to like 4 or 5 different doctors, and every doctor told me that it was because of stress. Like, don't worry, it's just stress. You're a teacher. Don't worry, it's just stress.
Wow. And were they female and male doctors?
Correct.
Both. Okay. Do you think that was part of you being Black as well? I mean, Black women are not taken seriously as much when they go in with a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally feel that way.
And were your doctors white or Black?
White.
White.
All of them were white.
Yeah.
Even I had one white woman and the rest were white men.
Wow.
And they all told me the same thing. It's just stress. Don't worry about it. It's just stress.
And you obviously went to multiple doctors. You got different opinions from people.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Because I kept saying, wait a minute, I can't be crazy. Like, no, there's something going on with me. It can't just be stress. That's normal. Like everybody stresses, good stress, bad stress. We stress.
Right.
This can't be it. And, the only thing that I had known about not having a cycle is pregnancy. Like the opposite of not having my cycle is going to be that you're pregnant. But that was not the case.
Right. Right. You pretty much knew that was not the case. Right.
So I changed my diet. I would eat vegetarian. Then I would try a vegan diet, and drink more water.
Wow.
No sugar, like gluten-free. I tried all these different things to see if naturally we could change it. I would buy oils and all this stuff, and nothing would work.
Oh my gosh, this is it's first of all, it's exhausting to have to keep changing your entire lifestyle and everything that you're intaking. And I mean, how much time was all of this? This sounds like a long time.
Oh, that was probably a couple of years.
Oh my God.
Trying that. Yeah. But actually, so I was in my early 20s when things with my body was starting to happen, and I just didn't understand. With night sweats, or what do you call them, hot flashes, and
you were getting those
headaches.
In your 20s.
Yeah, my mid-20s that was happening.
And did you talk to anyone then?
I did, but it was I was kind of just pushed to the side almost, in a sense. It's not that big of a deal. You're worrying about it too much. You have nothing to worry about. You're young.
Wow. These are the doctors saying that?
These are the doctors.
Oh my God.
So,
yeah.
And then, but here's with me not knowing anything about, one, my body, and then two, that this was even a thing. I've never even heard about infertility until I found out about it,
right.
Myself. I had no idea that this was, something that I could even go through. So it was after coming back from visiting my best friend in Oklahoma, I found a Black doctor, set up a time frame to meet with her. We did a telehealth call. And I said, before, she was like, hi, nice to meet you. And I was like, hi, before you even begin, let me just say, I've been told that what I'm dealing with is stress. I've been told this by a bunch of doctors. I've tried this, I've tried that. If you tell me that it's just stress, then I'm changing insurances because I don't want to hear it.
You started with that. That's amazing.
That's how I started. That was our hello.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, calm down.
You're already angry. Yeah. But you would
Hi,
be.
Nice to meet you.
Oh my God.
But she said, okay, let me hear it all. And she was the first doctor in my young adult life that actually listened and took everything down, everything I was saying. She took it down and she said, okay, this is what it sounds like. Maybe you could be dealing with some type of fertility issues, but we're not sure. So I'm going to give you a bunch of tests. So basically, I had to go and they took like 20 some odd vials of blood from me, everything. So after doing the test, she called me and she also knew that I was a Googler. So I'm like Googling all this stuff to try and like figure it out myself. Like I want to be prepared for whatever it is she was about to tell me.
Right.
Through all my Googling, I wasn't prepared. She called me and she said, okay, Melissa, unfortunately, you will not be able to have a child of your own.
Mm.
And I said, wait, what? What does that mean? She's like, you don't have any eggs. I said, so I don't have any eggs, like none, like zero. Like, wait, how did this happen? And she said, had we known earlier, I wish you had gotten to me earlier because we could have run some tests. We could have, it's possible that we could have figured something else out years ago. I said, so I'm not going to be able to have any child. She said, the only way you'll be able to have a child is through egg donation.
Wow. And you were how old when this was this year?
This was this year.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
This was this.
And you
August.
had started, I mean, you'd already been doing this, what, 4 years at this point? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that progresses too. She's like she's saying they may have been able to make some differences 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How did you feel in that moment?
I was like, why me? I don't understand. I screamed, I cried. It was, I mean, I was wailing, like a mother had just lost their child.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it was devastating. And I mean, I was in mourning.
Yeah. You
For
basically fast forwarded to the end of a journey that a lot of people go through, you know, for years with ups and downs, and then they eventually sometimes get that. You just were like slammed right into that, totally
Mhm.
unprepared without even knowing. Like you said, you didn't even know you were in the world of infertility or fertility. You were just
Right.
like, why aren't I getting my period? It was really super basic.
Mhm.
And to get news like this, that's like, oh, I'm already at the end of the road. I didn't even rent the car yet. What do you mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You can't tell me to go home. I haven't started the road
Right.
trip. Yeah.
Right. And so I called my mom, I called my best friend, I called her mom. I was just, I mean, and we were all in shock because we literally thought, well, maybe it's something that we can change. We can change our diet. We
Right.
can, there's something that we can do to, we were hoping for something else.
Right.
So to be told like nothing, zilch. And then, by the way, along with this, you're going through menopause and you have the body of a 51-year-old woman. And I'm really concerned about your DEXA and your osteoporosis.
Oh
And
my
all
gosh.
these
So
things.
it's
And I'm like,
literally your
wait,
whole
what?
body. It's not just your ovary, it's your whole body is going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
And
gosh.
it's like, okay, and I need you to come in and I want you to get a DEXA test. And I want to.
What is that?
Check. So it's something where they just check on your bones to make sure like your bones aren't going through osteoporosis.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Which I'm not.
Right.
So
Okay.
yay.
Yay. Let's take the wins wherever we can. Yeah.
Right. But so I took all that in and then the next day came and I had to teach kindergarten. And
Oh my gosh, right. So you're a teacher. So that's another question I had is so
Mhm.
you're around kids all the time. This is your professional career. Was that initially it making you want children more? And then how did that feel to you once you got this news?
Teaching hasn't really made me want kids more. A lot of times with my students, they call me their school mom. And they're like, "Oh, you're my school mom." And that's like the greatest thing and the greatest feeling and they still keep in touch. But to not be able to have my own
Yeah.
was like, that's when it really hit me with where teaching came in, because I went through this anger. Like, how am I able to sit and teach all these other people's kids for all these years and I can't even have my own to, raise and go to
Right.
PTA meetings for and with, but the next day we had a writing activity where we had to draw a heart and you would write the things that you value, the things that you loved inside of your heart. And I had to turn the camera off because I just,
Mm.
like, tears would just came flooding down my face because all I could think about was the baby that I always wanted that I'm now being told that I can't have.
Yeah.
That moment was so hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I would be able to continue teaching, or, how am I going to pick myself up from this?
Right.
Right. And I'm so used to, like, just as a person, I'm used to like putting on a smile and moving forward, like, just keep going, just keep going. And I felt bad about it. Now I don't. But then at that moment, at that time, I did. I felt bad that I couldn't keep smiling. I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not able to push through? This isn't you. You're supposed to put on a smile and keep going, cry about it later. But I just couldn't. I couldn't.
And when you say you felt bad, you mean you felt critical of yourself?
I felt like I guess I was being selfish. Like,
Mm.
there's so many other people that are dealing with, something so much worse than you, and keep moving. You'll be able to have a kid some kind of way. Like, there's always adoption. That's what I hear a
Oh
lot.
my God, I know. Why don't you just adopt? Well, and what's so interesting is you are an adult adoptee too, right?
Right, exactly. And so there's the other
So if
part.
anyone would understand, of
Right,
course that's fulfilling, but it's a different way of fulfilling something that you weren't intending to do initially. So,
right.
it's still you can't just flip over and oh great, here's an oh great, oh I didn't think about that. Thank you.
Right.
As an adult adoptee, no, it never occurred to me to adopt a baby. Thanks for suggesting that. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
wonder actually, do you think being an adoptee was part of why your drive to have your own child was so important? I mean, it's important for
Yeah.
everyone, but
They're being adopted. There's something, like, my parents are the greatest. I love them dearly. I had a really good life, but there is still this piece internally that I feel is missing. It's difficult. So having a child of my own, I wanted that bond, that connection of you're mine and I'm yours.
genetics.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And is premature ovarian failure genetic?
it can be.
So your birth parents, so you weren't in touch with them. That wasn't an open adoption.
No.
Okay.
And I longed to find them.
Mm,
It was a closed adoption.
hmm
Yeah, so
And
there's very little that I know.
interesting. So if you had that piece of information, maybe it would have been diagnosed sooner, but it sounds like none of those doctors were looking for it, so they wouldn't have been asking those questions.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all at once you're facing, first of all, COVID.
Right.
Let's not discount that because we've all lost our minds.
Yes.
You're going through a breakup with someone who really behaved badly. Let's put it
Mhm.
so nicely that way.
Mhm.
Did not treat you well. And then you have the external emotions, I'll call them, of finding out this huge loss all at once that you're not going to be able to have your own genetic child. And also the physical emotions of what's happening chemically in your body of going through
Mhm.
menopause.
Yeah.
And then you're mad at yourself that you're not being more cheerful. I'm sorry. I don't mean to
When you
laugh.
put it that way.
You're feeling guilty that you're sad. No, but I know. I mean, I get it. And also, like, even really just from your email, there was such a positivity to it. I mean, even we've never met. I'm only hearing your voice. We don't have our video on. We're here on Zoom. But I could tell right away that I could connect with the positivity that you have. And, you used words like power and basically determined single mom or proud single mom, defiant, that kind of thing. And so I feel like that is a very big part of who you are. You are a very positive person, and to suddenly be hit with something that you can't get yourself through must be devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom and my dad both have been really supportive. Like, whatever you want to do, let's figure out how we can help you through it. My best friend and her mom, who I call my bonus mom,
Mm-hmm.
they were with me through, goodness, the dark. Like, when
Mm.
I would be sitting in the restroom or like watching TV, and all of a sudden I'm in tears and I can't figure out why I'm crying. And they would call me every single day, like, okay, we're gonna get through it, Very proactive. As far as, okay, now let's pick ourselves up. Okay, what's the next hurdle? What are we going to do?
Right.
So we looked online at different egg donation websites, and then we looked at, one, the cost, like, wow, my goodness.
Yeah.
And then two, that there weren't very many Black egg
Yeah.
donors that looked like me or had my hair texture or my skin tone. And
That's true because, as a stupid white person, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I've seen Black donors, but just a Black donor does not solve your problem. Like, that's assuming that I could look at any white donor and be like, great, she's white, let's go,
right.
but that's only the beginning of it. Like, if I want someone, like you say, that looks like me, which is the point,
Mhm.
it's not just about skin color. It's about, the shape of the eyes and the hair and what are they into? And are
Mhm.
they like, do they seem like they're like me, or their interests similar? Or is
Yeah.
their personality similar? Like, you need just as many options as anyone else
Right.
who's looking for a
And then
donor.
you get these emails from egg donation places. I received one email from a company, and hey, we found these new donors, and we think they'd be perfect for you. And I'm like, okay, great. And I open up the email, and they're white. And like,
Wow.
literally in 2 minutes, I get an email back from them apologizing. Oh, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to
Oh, they
send this to
caught it.
you. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, how many agencies did you look at?
Starting off, there was like four. Each one had Black donors, but not very many. You'd think, oh well, at least there's someone. They're there. But again, like, they didn't have my hair texture. They weren't the match that I needed for me.
Right. It's a very, very personal decision. I mean, we found people that if you wrote it down on paper, they would be a match for me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, white, but then I'm technically a brunette. You wouldn't know it these days, but yes, technically my original color is brown. So, brunette, blue eyes, like you could put in even the lineage, like, okay, they have some British and some Polish and, all the things that I have. But then you look at this person and it's like someone I would never even have a conversation with. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's you really have to find that match. It's almost like a spiritual match
Mm-hmm.
that you feel with the donor.
It's
Yeah,
such
I
a
totally
process. Now, there are some women, though, I know, that have settled because they haven't found any Black sperm donors or Black egg donors,
Mm.
and have said, you know what? I just want a baby, and I'm just going to do it.
Do you think you would ever consider that?
The only thing that I've considered is Latino. I've definitely looked that way, or Filipino, but still, I want my baby to have brown skin.
Yeah. You're not looking at Irish donors right
No.
now. No. You have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then rewind a little bit. Before that, I was like, okay, would I even be able to carry a child?
Oh,
And
wow.
so the doctor said, well, let's do a sonogram. Let's see what's going on in there. And did that. And that came out positive. And so that's when I said, okay, well, now let's look at the egg donors and see what we can see. And
Was that at least a win when you found that out? Did that feel
when I
good?
found out that my uterus was good, I was like, yes, that was the happiest news I had in such a long time. I was like, score, yay, our
Yeah.
uterus is good.
Dancing in the living room.
Yes.
Yeah.
But had I found out that my uterus wasn't good, I still would have looked for other options, because I'm just a resilient person. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm down. All right. But now we're going to get back up and keep going. Like, one way or another, we're going to have this little baby. Where are we going to find this little baby?
It will happen. Yeah. But that's exactly the positivity I felt from you too, just even in our emails. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Is, you can't take no for an answer. You can take an alternate answer, but you won't take no
Right.
as an
Yeah.
answer. Well, and also, by the way, you're going to need a sperm donor for this.
Right.
So now what is that search like?
Oh my
What is the world of
goodness.
Black sperm donors
Woo.
like these days?
It is. Black sperm donors, let me tell you, make sure you just have a little glass of wine because I mean, you're gonna have to get through. There's not very many African American Black donors,
Oh,
sperm
really? I thought
donors.
you were going to say the opposite, the
No,
way you were saying with the glass of wine. It's like a
no,
party,
it's
but
not a
no, it's
party.
the
It's
other
like
way.
let's get
You're
through.
crying
Yeah,
with the
like
glass of wine. Okay, I
get your
see.
tissues too, possibly, depending on the day. There are not very many. On a daily basis, I'm looking at 3 sperm banks that the clinic that I am choosing to use works with. And there's just not. I mean, but here's the thing. When you're like dating, you're not finding out if they have like sickle cell genes and like,
Right.
especially not
Totally.
on a first
Right.
date, right? But with looking for a sperm donor, now you have all these different options.
Yes.
And so you're able to see the whole genetic and medical history of these people. And it's like a lot to take in, which is where wine comes in. Um, 'Cause it's a lot. I have like a notebook and I'm writing the donor number, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm like writing all the positives on one side and the negatives on the other and really trying
Wow.
to figure it out. But unfortunately, there aren't that many. And I don't know if it's right now, if it's due to COVID.
Hmm.
And so there was one guy that I was like, yes, he's the one. I want him.
Hmm.
Yes. And when I called, his wait list is full. So I've literally been calling every morning to check, hey, is this donor's, did anybody drop off his waiting list? Did anybody drop off his waiting list? Like, I'm like, I know y'all are going to get annoyed with me calling every day. So you might as well just put me on the waiting list. Like, let's save us both the hassle.
So you mean you can't even get on the waiting list for this guy?
No.
Oh my God, is it John Legend? Who is this guy?
Please.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's just, I mean, do you settle and just go with somebody else, or do you hope somebody else settles so you can get on the waiting list, which is
Right.
kind of where I am?
Well, and I wonder too, being single, does any part of you think, well, maybe I'll wind up dating somebody and they can be the donor for me?
You know, I've had that thought, but it's kind of like I don't want to feel pressured when it comes into dating. Like, I don't want to meet someone and be like, oh, like looking with my rose colored glasses, hoping that things could work out based on me wanting to go ahead and have a child. I just want to do it on my own, you
Right.
know?
That's a good point, which comes back to what you said about, proud single mom to be.
Right.
Do you have a sense of percentage wise how many are Black, just to give like a perspective on the whole thing as you're going through these? Is it 20%, 10%?
When I put in the criteria for me, I've literally not had any Black men show up
Wow.
for specifically one bank. Another bank, I've had one Black guy show up out of 52.
Wow.
And the last sperm bank, I've had one, and it's the same guy. I just don't want to
Yeah.
settle for him. But there's maybe 4 that have shown up on that particular sperm bank. So, I mean, it's really low. I mean, really low. And if you just take Black out of the equation and you just put like maybe curly hair and wavy hair, or whatever, you'll get, I mean, there's like 200 guys to choose from, but they're not Black.
Wow. So you could put in every other criteria that you're looking for and take out the Black part, and you would get so many more.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Hmm.
I wonder if that, that kind of comes to this overall question, which is that this whole world of fertility and infertility is a very non-Black world. I mean, there are very few Black women dealing with IVF. There are very few, as you say, very few Black egg donors, very few Black sperm donors. Do you have any sense, I'm just going to ask you to speak for all Black people now, Melissa, but do you have any sense of why that is?
Yeah, I've really posed that question. I think infertility in the Black community is something that's not really spoken about. Like, people do not educate us on infertility or checking out our bodies or looking at the different signs and symptoms that could be occurring for you to go and check it out. We're just not told, and it's not something that's spoken about. And then the other thing is like that I've personally come across is having to deal with religion and it being based on religion. Like
Mm.
I've had people tell me, oh, well, God just doesn't want you to have kids.
Oh,
I've
wow.
heard like, well, IVF, that's science, that's not God. And so because of that, we don't believe in that.
And is that your family that said that, or you're seeing
I've
that
had
just sort of as a cultural thing?
both. I've read that
Mhm.
in different like Facebook groups that I'm in, but
Mm.
I've also heard that personally from people that I know in my community
Yeah.
that have
It's
said that to me, and I've encouraged them to kind of seek out a little bit more knowledge on it, and that when we talk about God, God is in the science, and God gives man this, wisdom to be able to create these wonderful things, like and make these things happen. I
right.
remember talking to my doctor when I found out about it later on. I spoke to her and I said, "Is this premature ovarian failure? Is this something that you've seen quite often?" Or she says at that time she had four other women that were recently diagnosed with it. Three of them were Black. And of those three, I'm the only one that is pursuing IVF.
Oh.
And I asked her why that was. And she said, one of the main reasons is because of finances,
Oh, yeah.
insurance not covering it, and having to figure out how you're going to pay for it, and the time and effort that it takes to do all this research, and all that we're doing with egg donations and the sperm donor, and it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So
And it's almost like a chicken and the egg thing because if there aren't a lot of Black patients in need of donors, then the agencies aren't going to be as aggressive in recruiting Black donors because they don't
mhm,
have as much of a market for it. And I don't mean to sound like horribly cynical, but that is the way these things happen, right? So it's not going to be their most aggressive angle for the types of donors they're going to look for because they don't know how many people are going to come along who want those donors. So it's like it just sort of keeps cycling back on itself. And so like you're saying, more education. It's I think I agree with you. It's not necessarily that people aren't educated. I almost feel like it's about perspective. I am not religious, but I imagine, I mean, I was raised with religion and, and to
mhm,
me, science and religion work together. I mean, if God
mhm.
created me, he also
Agreed.
created science. So,
Mhm.
he also created the moon and the solar system and
Right.
nanoparticles and like all these other bits and pieces and chemistry and so
Mhm.
it just depends on where you decide to end your perception of God, I think,
Right.
and the bigger you make God, the bigger the universe becomes and the bigger, I mean, listen to an atheist talking like this, but this is very sort of instinctive to what I feel is, you can't just say, well, God made you that way, so that's it. That would be like if you broke your arm, you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with a broken arm. But no, actually, God created doctors to help you
Right.
make a cast and set your arm and get your arm to be fixed. So, if you have POF, yes, let's say you believe that that's part of who you are because God created you that way, but also God created sperm banks and, doctors,
Right.
healing
Exactly.
specialists. And why should people limit themselves emotionally to having to accept failure?
Right.
I'm curious, are you religious? Has that come into your, as you work through this yourself? Is your faith part of this?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, and I have cried. In the beginning of this, I was like, "Why, God? Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Why me?" And
Were you angry at God?
I was
Yeah.
angry. I was angry at him. I was angry at people that don't raise their kids the way that I think I would have raised mine.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
I
like, give me a chance. I'll do it right. Don't
exactly.
waste it on these people.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. But through this, it's definitely I've had prayers where I'm praying every morning just to be at peace and to be happy and to be a blessing to my students that I teach each day, and
Mm,
faith that when times do get tough, or when I think that the money isn't going to come, or I think that COVID is stopping me from being able to go to Barbados. Like I'm like,
right.
I'm like, okay, God, I'm still holding on and still having faith that this will happen. And I think that it gives me a sense of peace and comfort. I think, and that's probably what holds me together. Like I don't have
Mm,
this it's not gonna happen feeling in my gut. Like, sometimes you kind of feel like something negative is gonna happen or something bad's gonna happen. Like I feel really good about this. I feel really good about moving forward and good about the direction that things are going. So I'm I'm just really hopeful.
your faith plays a part. It gives you a nice
Yeah.
foundation for all of that.
Yeah,
It sounds like, yeah.
definitely.
But the financial side, that was actually going to be my next question. I know you said you're doing a GoFundMe. So is this
Mhm.
your pathway to making this happen
It
or?
is. It's
Wow.
definitely been encouraging. I mean, GoFundMe themselves, they have a GoFundMe give on Tuesdays or something like that. And
Mm,
GoFundMe funded me $500.
wow.
They look at different GoFundMe's, I guess,
Profiles
and
or,
yeah,
yeah,
and they're
campaigns. Yeah.
yeah, campaigns. There you go, and they choose one, and I was one of theirs.
Now, you mentioned Barbados, and I happen to know that is not just you looking to go on a beach vacation. You have another reason why you're talking about Barbados. So, what is the current state of your quest here?
So they have found me an egg donor there.
And who's they?
It's Barbados Fertility Clinic.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going, and
So the donor has been identified for you.
the donor has been identified. I was planning to go in April, but with COVID and with everything that's going on now,
Oh gosh, right.
everything's so uncertain. So I'm hoping that the donor that they selected for me, I can still keep her. If not, then I'll just hope that someone else will come along whenever I decide to go. And so now I'm in like different a couple of Facebook groups of other girls that go down there and couples that are going down there.
Wow. So there's a whole Facebook group that's part of just going to Barbados? How
Yeah, specifically
interesting.
for that clinic. And so they give advice on, that's how I find out about how many days you got to stay there and who to call and what taxi driver to use and that sort of thing.
Wow. So they really get you through it. That's great.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 Facebook groups.
Yeah.
They're not 1,000. In fact, I know personally there are
There's
not
so many.
1,000, but there's many Facebook groups of
Yeah.
support for infertility. But I would wonder, as a Black woman, how you feel about those groups, and have you found one that feels more comfortable to you? And would that have to do
Yeah.
with skin color?
Yeah, I've joined different Facebook groups, and I think the ones that I do feel more comfortable with are the ones that are Black, like Black women and infertility, and like
Hmm.
single moms by choice, like Mocha
Yeah.
single moms by choice. I really like theirs.
Hmm.
Um, Although I'm in some of these groups, I'm kind of shy, perhaps. Like I don't
Hmm.
really get in there and do a bunch of talking, but I do a lot of reading of their stories, and I might chime in and agree, or show some type of support.
And it's interesting because while you are coping with your situation and working your way through it, you're also an advocate. I mean,
Yeah.
this whole world of infertility, it affects
Hmm.
something like 1 in 8 couples. But if you think about those statistics, who are they polling with that, right?
Right.
Because there could be
Hmm.
entire communities of people of color that aren't even identifying their infertility or won't accept it. So they may not even be part of that statistic. And it might be much more than 1 in 8. It could be 1 in 6. It could be 1 in 4. So we
Right.
need to get as many people talking about this as possible, because the resources and the solutions come when the numbers are big enough that they demand
Yes.
them. Yeah. So I think it's wonderful that you're so open about it.
And I feel like that's something that is so freeing and something that is so helpful while going through this is the importance of being able to have your voice and to share it and to let other people know that you're not alone in this. Like, we will get through. You can cry it out, and it's okay to have your tears, and it's okay to have your sad days and whatnot. But we can still pick ourselves up. We can still find other ways. We can still get through it. As
Mm.
as a community.
Yes. And I think being able to help people this way is probably also helping you as you go through
Yeah.
this. That's great. And then what's the name of your GoFundMe?
It's called The Teacher and the Lost Eggs.
Nice. Okay. So people can
Yeah.
find you through there if they want to make a donation. Of
Mhm.
course, we can do
Yeah.
that here. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get Melissa to Barbados.
And mind
And
you, it's just helping me pay for the financial part of the IVF, and not the travel.
that's what MasterCard is for.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. I mean, seriously, it's not even a joke, but it is because it's so painful. And then it's just sort of as I kind of end this way with everyone. But do you have any last thoughts you would like to share? And also kind of coupled with that, any thoughts of how we could get more Black men and women involved in this conversation? Bring them in as donors as well. What?
Yeah. Definitely just reach out to possibly a sperm bank or find an egg donation bank. If you want to be a donor, contact some egg banks or contact sperm banks. I know they're very prevalent on college campuses. I also know that the different sperm banks that I've recently been involved with have said they're going to try to reach out to some HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, campuses, which, would totally bring about more awareness, and people would donate more from those campuses, because that's, from my understanding, that's typically where they go to get donors. They go to the college campuses, but if they're going to the college campuses that are not predominantly Black, or going to college campuses that are predominantly white, there's very few Black students there. Therefore, you would get very less, egg donations and sperm donors. I know there's women who don't want children. Like, they just know they don't want to have children. If that's you, go donate your eggs. Like,
Right.
allow someone else that does want kids to bless them with it. Same thing with the sperm. Just get out and donate. Donate. And then the other thing I would say is to educate yourself about your body, and ask around, like, find a good doctor, ask friends, ask family, ask older women, who they use, who they trust, and find a doctor that will listen to you, and find a doctor that will help you understand what's happening to your body. But I would say, find out about your body in your early 20s, because maybe it's something that maybe you do need to freeze your eggs. Maybe you're not ready to have kids right now in your early 20s, totally understandable. But freeze your eggs so that when you're able to, or when you're wanting to, that you have that option. That's something that I could have possibly have done, but
had you known, right?
Had I known. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for talking with me. This has just been
Thank
wonderful.
you for having me.
Absolutely. And we're definitely going to get that GoFundMe out there so people can find you through there if they want to make a donation.
Yes. It's called The Teacher and the Lost Eggs.
Fabulous. And good luck with everything. I know you will be successful somehow because you are determined and you don't take no for an answer. So I think that's very important. Awesome. Okay. Thanks for hanging out with Melissa and me. Please check out her GoFundMe at The Teacher and the Lost Egg and donate if you can. Let's get her to her egg donor. And since we spoke, she's also founded a nonprofit called EmptyNest.org, EmptyNest.org, to raise awareness and grants for women of color who've been diagnosed with infertility. Please check it out. Also, I want to mention this cool thing we're doing for our season finale in November. In season 1, you met my therapist, Savannah Sandfield, and now we're bringing Savannah back to answer your questions. It's free therapy. So send your questions to ivfupodcast@gmail.com or just DM me on Instagram at ivfupodcast by November 11th, 11/11. Yay! And get your questions in. The IVFU podcast is produced by me, Sam Shaper, and Emmeline Somerton. Audio mastered by Logan Heftel. Thanks to Chris Bonelli for the late night Pro Tools parties, George Straighton for marriage, and Gary Scott for greasing the wheels. IVFU is a production of Inside Voices Media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at IVFU Podcast. You can download our theme song, Freakin' Love, at ivfupodcast.com. And we'd love for you to review us on Apple Podcasts and spread the word to anyone who might be helped by these conversations. You can also be a huge help by leaving us a tip of any size, whatever you can afford, on Venmo and paypal.me at IVFU Podcast. Thank you. And thanks for listening. I'm happy we shared this time together because it's all about being a family.